so that
This meeting is being recorded.
and then I'd like to, first of all, thank everyone for joining us. And we have a great panelist here today that will share with you the resources that are available to you as small businesses, and they're free, and they can really get down and help you with what those next steps are. I'd like to open up our program right now and introduce Anne Frank. She is the director of the Baltimore Business Women's Center, and she's the host of this. Her agency is what's making this possible for small businesses and focusing at women entrepreneurs. And so I'd like to just give the floor to Anne for a moment, if you would, and say thank you as well.
Well, you're quite welcome, and thank you. Not only is the Women's Business Center, Baltimore Metropolitan Women's Business Center at Morgan State University, able to make this happen, but so are you as a small business as well. So it's all about collaboration and teamwork. And so thank you, Karen, and your team for making this possible along with us. And so I say good morning and greetings to all of you under the sound of my voice, our panelists included. I'm so elated to, have an opportunity under Morgan and EDAC to present this to you all. It's so important, and especially in this day and age, right? Trade is growing in abound. So we thought it important to educate our small businesses on how to do it and to do it well and efficiently, and to have a great profit margin in doing so. So with that said, thanks again for being a part of what we do. You're always welcome to, for those of you all who are not clients of the Baltimore Metropolitan Women's Business Center, we shorten it by saying Balt Metro, WBC. Please, check out our website, baltmetro.wbc.org. We have a lot of different trainings and specialty programs as such as this one. So thanks again, and thanks to our panelists as well for joining us this morning. Thank you, Karen.
And thank you, Anne. I really, really appreciate it. And we're going to get this out there to not only our attendees that are right here, but also we'll be able to kind of reach out to the Entrepreneur Business Center. I'd like to also mention that on Thursday, we will have a representative from the Maryland Small Business Development Center at 10 o'clock. And so he will be able to kind of go over also what services that they can provide for you to become export ready. And that's going to be the critical thing. Our next panelist is Steve Sullivan, and he's from the Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C. And his focus is, and his unit is all about exporting and the resources that they have available. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. And I'd like to give the floor to you now.
Thanks, Karen. Pleasure to be here. And Anne, it was great to meet you virtually. I look forward to working with you in the future. I love the energy. So why don't you jump to the next slide, Karen? I want to go over kind of SBA's three main areas where we support small business exporters. So the first area is business intelligence. So our trade policy division heads that area up. SBA.gov/trade tools is a website designed to help businesses understand available resources, get you started on developing your export business plan, and identify target markets. This division also provides guidance to companies confronting trade barriers or looking to overcome specific challenges to global market expansion. And finally, SBA's trade policy experts represent the interests of small business in trade policy and trade agreement discussion on the interagency and bilateral or multilateral front. So we're still on the first slide, please. So that's kind of our nutshell description of our trade policy group. Our grants division is probably the area most relevant to the prospective exporter, as these grants can be used to help companies begin or grow their exports. The grant that SBA administers is called the State Trade Expansion Program, better known as STEP. Not every state participates in this grant, but fortunately Maryland does. And we have somebody from that office who will speak after me to let you know about the grant specifics and a little bit more about what they do. And then finally, SBA's Office of International Trade has a finance division which works with banks and businesses to support government guaranteed loans to small business exporters. So the 90% guarantee that SBA offers gives the banks the incentive to make funds available to small businesses that otherwise fall under their comfort level on the risk versus profitability scale. So currently we have 20 export finance managers around the country responsible for territories covering the entire nation. Maryland's representative is housed in Arlington, Virginia. I'll go into a little more detail on each of these areas in the following slide. So next slide, please, Karen. So just a little more on the business intelligence side of things. I wanted to make sure to mention that the Trade Tools website is available in English and Spanish. So great resource for kind of if you have Hispanic-owned businesses that are certainly growing a lot, and it's sometimes an easier route for them to look at resources in their language. But it's really, again, a one-stop website for information on exporting and importing, which is nice, kind of the variety of information in there. A lot of stuff on kind of what's going on with the USMCA is the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. That's kind of the hot thing at the moment. So you can get more on that in there. And then certainly the customs and tariffs, intellectual property, and e-commerce information. But I think that the kind of the most important resource from this office is the hotline. And so we actually have people who will answer questions for you. So you can call toll free at 855-722-4877 or send an email to international@sba.gov. They're great at kind of referring you on to somebody who might be able to help you depending on your stage of the export process. A lot of times they will refer kind of new to export companies to our partners in the small business development centers who we work with a lot on the international trade front, providing counseling and certification on international trade to the SBDCs. And then they also have a program called Fast Track Service, which is kind of like they'll sit down with you and figure out where you are with the whole exporting journey, kind of a more in-depth study and help connect you to the appropriate resources. So next slide, Karen, please. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that not every state has STEP. I can tell you that the STEP director is really focused on making sure as many states as possible tap this resource. The funding nationwide for next year was recently announced at $20 million. And so the max amount for a state would be $2 million for a state, or 100,000 is the minimum just to be part of the program if you want to participate. It's a matching grant which states can tap to increase significantly the support they provide to small business exporters. So listed here are some of the typical expenses that we cover with STEP funds. So a lot, there's participating in virtual and in-person trade missions, trade shows, international partner search or gold key or programs from the Commerce Department that Michael will talk about in a little bit. We've invested a lot in website optimization for global sales. This often involves folks setting up a website in another country, which really helps their distributors connect better with clients. So just foreign market entry services, market research, training workshops. I'm not sure if, I think Maryland has an export tech program. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of different training opportunities that could be considered for step-worthy financing. Maryland's Office of International Investment and Trade would be the one to tell you specifically what they're focused on. But in general, STEP does these things, marketing and media. Aerek will talk a little bit about kind of a new thing that that STEP is getting into supporting related to EXIM Bank. And so it's sba.gov/STEP to find out the states that are offering it now. Again, we have somebody from the Maryland office coming on to speak next, so they'll provide the local contact information for that. So next slide, please, Karen. Okay, so I wanted to put a slide up that gives you a feel for some of the reasons that a business needs financing to support international trade. So, for instance, payment terms to customers, basically by saying, okay, you can pay me in 120 days instead of paying me up front. A business might need financing to be able to do that, and frankly, that makes them a lot more competitive overseas, being able to offer terms so they can do more business, bring in more clients because of that. Proactive marketing is another kind of requirement for international trade. You need to get your name out there, your product out there. And so you might need financing to support that increased marketing. Purchasing merchant machinery or equipment to meet international demand. This is basically just saying, hey, you might need more space or more machines to be able to produce more to sell overseas, and SBA has programs that can help support that. Financing international purchase orders. Again, it's like you need your working capital to be able to produce the product to respond to a purchase order. And then another example is bid bonds or advance payment or performance guarantees. Sometimes a foreign buyer will ask for a bid bond, which basically saying you're going to give us a performance guarantee up front. And so sometimes our programs finance that type of thing. So it's just to kind of give you a taste of some of the areas of international trade that you might need financing. Could you jump to the next slide, please, Karen, just to see kind of our specific programs that we offer. So I do want to note that these programs are available both to direct and indirect exporters. And so by an indirect exporter, we mean a company that maybe is selling a product to another company that's a component of a larger company that's selling those products overseas. So like an example of something we might see a lot of is a company that makes little plastic, like rug floors or something for cars that go in. They're not selling directly overseas, but they're selling to an auto provider that's going in and being part of a product that's going overseas. So those companies like that are eligible for our programs as well. So like Export Express lenders can directly underwrite a loan without getting prior approval from SBA, which allows you to get capital quickly up to $500,000. Export working capital loans allow small business owners to apply for loans in advance of finalizing an export sale or contract. So that gives the exporters greater flexibility in negotiating export payment terms. And then finally, international trade loans help small businesses enter international markets or make investments to compete with other importers. These offer a combination of fixed asset, working capital financing, and debt financing with SBA's maximum guarantee of 90%. Again, that's a $5 million limit for that. These are often kind of longer loans, whereas the export working capital loans often turn over in a year. These could be kind of much longer because you're purchasing fixed assets that allow you to increase your sales overseas. And then that's sort of the quick overview. Last slide, please, Karen. Just sort of a reminder of some things on the SBA export resources front. We do have another tool that was put together years ago by SBDCs. It's the SBA Export Business Planner. I mentioned the Trade Tools website has some information on export business planning. This also is a great tool. We haven't updated it for a while, but it's still useful. If you Google SBA Export Business Planner, you'll find that. And again, like I mentioned before, a lot of the new to export companies can really get some good initial assistance in export business planning, in particular from SBDC. So you could always Google find an SBDC to get your local, your nearest SBDC. And again, you got the Trade Tools website. You have the sba.gov/STEP for more on the STEP program. And then sba.gov/international is where you can go to find those counselors that you need around the country that are doing our trade finance work. You could also search on your web site the find an SBA export finance manager will get you there as well. And then again, most importantly, the direct contact international at sba.gov. And I did want to mention before I close that we do have a big webinar planned on May 17th. I think Karen's going to include some information on that. And this is a great opportunity to hear from other businesses that have gone through this process, tapped some of our funds, and they're all, actually we have 3 businesses that are all clients of SBDCs, I think out of Illinois, Virginia, and South Carolina. And they'll just talk about their experience working with the SBDC and tapping different SBA programs to help them achieve global market success. So you can register via that link. I'll also put the link in the chat after I'm done. So turn it back to you, Karen. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was so informative and helpful. And I know that we're going to get a lot of questions either at the end of this session or we'll get them in the chat section that we will respond to. What I'd like to do now is Anne would like to just kind of jump back in before she leaves. And once again, Anne, thank you for being the host for this.
Sure, Karen. Yes, I just didn't want to leave. First of all, I'm so glad that this is being recorded because I do have to leave for another meeting this morning. But I also want to thank Steve. Excellent presentation. And I as well look forward to working with you and all of the panelists as we are new to the game, the Baltimore Metropolitan Women's Business Center. We're new to the game because we're a new center and we are under the umbrella of SBA as well. We're a direct provider under SBA and the Office of Women Business Owners. So just wanted to make that, share that with you all. And thank you once again as I have to depart. So Karen,
okay, hey,
sure that I
and before you go, I wanted to give you a heads up that I'm hoping later in the year to do a webinar with women-owned business exporters and just having them share their story. So let's connect, reach out to me, and maybe you can work a program around that when we put that one together.
We can for sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good.
Good morning, all.
Take
Have
care.
a great day.
Thank you, Anne. And thank you, Steve. I really, the information is so valuable. And the whole purpose of this is connect. It's being a connector to the resources that are out there to our small businesses. And I'd like to now bring in Brian. He is in the STEP program, the State Trade Expansion Program, and have him go over a little bit more in depth as to what Maryland directly can do and what they've done. And then at the end of our panel presentation, we are going to have one of the STEP clients that is going to be able to kind of share briefly her experience, her business experience as well. So Thank you, Brian, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Karen, and yeah, want to thank you for holding this today. We do a lot of good work helping companies export. One thing we don't do very well is market our services. So not a lot of people know who we are. So thank you for putting this together. Always, appreciate our partners helping us market our services. So
Thank you.
yep. So my name's Brian Castleberry. I'm one of 5 regional managers in the Maryland Department of Commerce. My region is Africa and the Middle East. So we have 4 other regional managers that cover the globe. We have 15 different offices throughout the world. For example, my office in South Africa, it's actually located in Durban. It actually covers all of sub-Sahara Africa. So if you're looking to export into a country in Africa, we've got a decent network there that can help you out. I also cover the Middle East. That office is in Dubai, but it covers all the UAE, all of Saudi Arabia, Qatar. So we've got a pretty decent network in Latin America, in China, all over Europe, Australia. And these offices, their main goal is to help you understand the market. And, once you have a good understanding and whether or not your technology or service could have an opportunity there, their job is to help you form connections, via distributors, potential customers, potential clients, to help you get in that market. We really think that Maryland has some of the best technology on the planet. You're going to be hearing from my good friend, Robin Wiener, CEO of Get Real Health, a little bit later. But Robin is a perfect example of a woman-owned business with a wonderful technology that we've been able to help out, along with Michael Jackson at the US Department of Commerce, that we've been able to help out and get exporting into different markets. So I'm going to use Robin as an example for some of these programs. So we'll talk about the export grant first. And I think if we could go to the next slide, that might delve into it. I'm sorry. Yeah, right there. So the Export Maryland grant, it's the SBA. We have to apply for this money every year. And the majority of this grant is spent for taking companies to trade shows. The grant is, we administer it, but it goes through a committee every month. So every month we get applications from companies that want to use this grant. We call it a travel grant a lot of times to go to a trade show or go abroad. The committee is made out of 5 people, and they either approve it or deny it. So it's my job to really put forth a good application with the company, to make sure that it gets approved by the committee. Again, I'd probably say 7 out of 10 of these grants are used to go to trade shows. We go to, before COVID, we were going to about between 10 and 12 trade shows a year. Myself, I probably go to about 5 of those a year. And Robin will talk to you a little bit more about, the trade show experience with us. But this grant can help cover your trade show costs, your air costs, your ground costs, so your Uber and taxi costs, and then your hotel. The grant is up to $5,000 and it's reimbursable. Okay, which means you pay for it, your flights and everything. You go to the trade show. When you come back, you send in your receipts, and we cut you 2/3 of your, of your expenses up to $5,000. Okay, so if you spend $6,000, you're going to get $4 back. If you spend $10,000, you're only going to get $5 back because that's the cap. The grant is good to send 2 people abroad. You can use it once every year. And again, we take applications every month. I like to meet with a company 2 or 3 months before a show and do the grant. So, Robin and Get Real Health, they'll come with us to Arab Health every year. I usually meet with Robin and her colleague, Jeannie. The show's in January. Usually meet with them in November. We kind of go over the grant together. They turn it in December, and then the clock starts January 1. Okay, so you have 6 months to use the funds in your grant. A lot of times the company will go to a show and they will cut a deal or something. They have to go back. So the grant's good for 6 months. We have a lot of companies that space it out over the course of 6 months, do a couple different shows. I think Robin and her gang at Get Real Health might have come to a show with us in November and then walked a show in January. So we're pretty flexible. Again, our goal is to get you into that market, physically get you into that market. And the best way to do that, really, it's through trade shows. And when you contact me or any of the other regional managers, we will let you know what trade shows we're going to. We will contact our office to let you know, if you're in a specific industry, what trade shows are good to go to, are successful, and so forth. So that's pretty much what we use the grant for. During COVID, we did a lot of website utilization. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier, but it's for a company to basically take their website and put it into a market. So you can get reimbursed for that. But again, any more information you need on this, please give me a call anytime. Again, we love trade shows. We like to see this grant used for companies to go to trade shows. Okay, so I think the next slide would be great. Okay, other services, the FlexX program. Okay, so this is, again, for our foreign offices. If you need any sort of information on a particular market, we will pay for our office to do that research for you. So again, if you want a market assessment, okay, hey, I'm a health IT company and I want to go to Dubai. I need to know who the competition is, what it's based on. Is it based on price? How do I get into the market? Who do I need to contact to do that? Who are the major players? How do I get to customers? All this stuff we can help figure out for you. And Michael Jackson from USIAC, he'll be talking a little bit about his programs. A lot of their programs are similar with ours. Michael and I, if you get a hold of one of us, you can get a hold of both of us. But we like to take a company and really, depending on the market, we decide which of our services we're going to use. So the second bullet point, USIAC reimbursement, the Gold Key program. So again, Michael, if you want to use Michael's services to do a Gold Key program, to do a distributor search, we can reimburse that up to 2/3. So, usually I think that's about $1,000. We can reimburse that for you. The Maryland Global Consulting Program. This is a great program out of the University of Maryland. It's run by the business school. And this is for students to help you with any of your your market intelligence, or really, they're really tailored to a company's specific needs. And I've got some more information on that, but we do reimburse that. But again, it's you work with the University of Maryland on a specific exporting project that you might have, and we can help reimburse that. The soft landing program really doesn't. So the soft landing program, we've got great trade agreements, MOUs with different regions of the world that are very similar to Maryland. So example, in the UK, United Kingdoms, there's the Midlands region, very, a lot of companies that are very similar to ours, very good in healthcare, very good in cyber, a lot of defense. So we've got an agreement set up where we want to take companies from that region and bring them here to our soft landing programs that are affiliated with different incubators. So they come here, they're not locked into, having to rent a building for a year. They can come here, get support to help set up a beachhead here in Maryland. And then so we've got agreements for Maryland companies to do the same abroad. So that's pretty much what the soft landing program is. Thanks. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, so I guess we're done. So again, yeah, Brian Castleberry, Maryland Department of Commerce. Our goal is to help you export. That's our main goal. We've got a ton of resources that we can use to do that. Michael's going to be talking with you a little bit later about some of his resources, and Robin will be kind of the case study of how to use us and utilize us to to the maximum. So there's my contact information. Please feel free to give me an email anytime, even if you're not looking into the UK, Middle East, or Africa. I can link you up with one of our regional managers. Yeah, we want to get you and your technology and services abroad. And again, Karen, thank you for inviting me to this today, and look forward to meeting some great women-owned businesses.
Well, and thank you so much, Brian, for this great information, very valuable. And it's just all about that connection, is being a connector. And now, just as you had said, Brian, we're going to bring in Michael Jackson. He's a representative from the US Commercial Services USIAC. And as Brian had indicated a few minutes ago, they oftentimes team together as to making certain that our businesses are export ready to make that next step. Thank you, Brian, thank you for coming, Brian. And Michael, I'd like to give the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's wonderful to be working with you again. And thank you all for either attending today or listening to the recording whenever it's recorded. So as was mentioned, I'm Michael K. Jackson. I'm with the Baltimore U.S. Export Assistance Center. The U.S. Commercial Service, if you're not familiar with us, we are the export promotion arm of the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration. So we are America's export experts, as we refer to ourselves as. Karen, if you could, next slide. So I'm a part of really a global network. We have over 100 U.S. Export Assistance Centers across the United States, and our counterparts are located in embassies and consulates in over 80 countries. And if you count in our State Department colleagues that act as an extension of ours, we're in over almost 200 countries. So we're a global organization dedicated to help you grow your exports, so that in turn we can actually make the United States stronger. So again, because you have the U.S. government behind you, not just Department of Commerce, but other agencies that are represented here, SBA, EXIM Bank, for example, two wonderful organizations I've had the pleasure of working for and with. You will hear from those gentlemen, well, you've already heard from Steve, and you'll hear from my old colleague, Aerek Stevens, in a second. But back to U.S. Department of Commerce. So again, we're a global network dedicated to helping you grow globally. And we do that through a number of different services in a number of ways that I'll talk about briefly today. Next slide, please. So again, global network, results driven, dedicated to helping you succeed globally. Our services fall into roughly four buckets. We provide export counseling, where we help you develop market entry strategies for the markets that you are interested in entering or expanding overseas. We don't claim to have all the answers, but what we do have is connections to most everyone that have the answers. So if you are needing information about export documentation, import regulations and requirements in different countries, we can get you those answers. We oftentimes, on a regular basis, work, as Brian Castleberry just mentioned, work in conjunction with our state and other federal agency counterparts to counsel you in terms of what's the best approach based on what your international goals are. So, Brian mentioned we co-counsel clients all the time. And the services of the Maryland Department of Commerce and the US Department of Commerce, US Commercial Service, fits hand in glove. So we provide you counseling, market intel. If you go to trade.gov, www.trade.gov, there's a plethora of information that you can avail, that you should avail yourself of if you haven't yet, to find out more about doing business globally, more about exporting. There's a ton, perhaps too much, but there's a ton of information out there. One particular resource I want to point out to you is called the Country Commercial Guides. With the CCGs, as we call them, they really outline for you the business and political environment in different countries. Based on your product or service, you can research if there's a particular fit, what the growth rates are with your particular, in your particular industry or for your particular product, for example. Furthering about market intel, we generally, begin by getting on the horn with our counterparts in embassies and consulates overseas to discuss the potential for your product or service. So we can do customized market research for you, or we can do what's called an initial market check, where my counterpart in an embassy or consulate overseas will actually go out to the market and test the market for up to and kind of touch bases with up to 5 potential companies or customers or partners in your industry or for your product, to really find out if there's a good fit for your product or service in that particular market. That then can lead to some of our other services, which is really our bread and butter, which is our business matchmaking service. But before I get to the business matchmaking, one thing to mention too, we have something called the International Company Profile, where it's a market intelligence tool that really provides intel on a specific company. So if you already have a particular company in mind that you're thinking about partnering with or doing business with, we can actually go out and do a check on that specific company. So that's market intel. Business matchmaking, as I alluded to earlier, is our bread and butter. Brian mentioned our Gold Key service. That's our premier service. But before I get to Gold Key, we've all been in this COVID environment for 2+ years now. And one service that has become popular during that time is a service called the International Partner Search Plus Virtual Introduction. Long name, let's just call it the IPS Plus. So what the IPS Plus facilitates is virtual introductions, just like you and I are on this Zoom meeting now. We facilitate up to 5 introductions virtually to partners, potential distributors, and the like, in particular markets that you are interested in. And that is basically the virtual version of what Brian mentioned, the Gold Key service that facilitates up to 5 real-life in-person introductions in country, in market, to those particular buyers, potential buyers, distributors, partners in those markets that you are interested in. So the IPS Plus and the Gold Key service, as Brian mentioned, I encourage you as a, this is for Maryland. So as a Maryland business owner, particularly if you are at the point where you're actually ready to export, to take advantage of, both the services of Maryland Department of Commerce and the US Commercial Service as well, because again, enough can be mentioned about how closely we work together in terms of these services. And the great news for you as a small business that's very cost conscious you can, apply for the STEP grant funding, which will actually, or the Export MD grant here in Maryland, which will allow you to go to trade shows and trade missions, which I'll talk about in a second, but also get you that 2/3 discount on our virtual services, a couple of the services that I've just talked about as well. So that's business matchmaking. And then commercial diplomacy. So if you are interested in bidding on foreign government contracts, the US government, the US Department of Commerce, we have what's called an advocacy center that's located at Commerce headquarters in Washington, D.C., that's dedicated to actually leveraging the backing, the heft of the U.S. government, let's say, to even that playing field and assist you in those, assist you on bidding and potentially winning those foreign government contracts, particularly in those instances where it's an uneven, unfair playing field. We actually come in and formally advocate on your behalf. Let's talk about trade shows and trade missions. It's not on here, but it's another mechanism through which and by which we actually help you to expand globally. So, Brian mentioned it again. Brian mentioned the Export MD grant, and there are a number of joint clients that Brian and I have that actually just recently attended our big trade show called Trade Winds. It happened last month. It was in Dubai. And, we annually sponsor a number of different trade shows and trade missions around the globe. Trade Winds was last month. It was huge, where businesses and diplomats from all over the globe converge on a location to assist you in understanding and connecting with partners in that particular market. Just so happened, this Trade Winds focused on the Middle East market, and we have something called DGM that's coming up in September, in the fall. That's another one of our flagship programs that's typically here in the United States, and it's typically focused on a particular industry or market area. This year it's focused on the blue economy, and it's going to be in September in the Northeast. And the exact location is escaping me right now, but I can get you information on that. So, we sponsor trade shows and trade missions throughout the year. And again, you can take advantage of Maryland Commerce's Export MD grant to actually offset the cost of those. So I think that's my time. Hopefully I didn't run over, Karen, but again, I'm happy to take questions either during our Q&A, or feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the slide here. This happens to be, the industries that I'm responsible for. I work on a team of 5 folks that have different industry verticals that they are in charge of. Happy to connect you with my team members who may cover industries that are not represented in my portfolio. Again, thank you so much, Karen. I look forward to the Q&A portion of the program.
Well, and I thank you so much, Michael. I mean, for making these connections and opportunities that are available to our small businesses, which oftentimes, it's just either it's a research project as a small business owner myself to find the right connections, or we just give up and it's a best kept secret. So all this information is so incredibly valuable. Thank you, Michael. So, and kind of continuing along this same connecting is the next piece of this is the finance piece, is that, yes, as a small business, we need to have those resources to be able to make those next steps, to be able to know that there is some protection out there that can help us in doing this. And so I'd like to hand the floor over now to Aerek Stevens from EXIM Bank. Thank you, Aerek. Please
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate the opportunity from other panelists, Brian, Robin, Steve, and yourself having EXIM a part of the program. You mentioned briefly about partnerships and collaboration. This is just an example of this particular phone call of the collaboration and the partnerships we need to make successful you to be able to export. You're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to need an export team in your corner, giving you the information, the resources you need to be successful. My name is Aerek Stevens. I'm an export finance manager at EXIM Bank. Been at EXIM Bank roughly around 6 years. Presently run the regional export promotion program, which was turned over to me from Michael Jackson, which you now see at US Commercial Service. So very versed in all the avenues of finance, export finance. Next slide. Who is EXIM? Karen mentioned the best kept secret. And probably that's the one word I would describe EXIM in a few words, the best kept secret. We've been around over 86 years. A lot of people don't know who we are or what we do until we start talking about it. And the goal is quite simple. We want to support U.S. jobs by growing U.S. exports. And more specifically, I reside in the women-owned called my MWOB, Women Minority Owned Business Division. It's a 20-year-old division dedicated to making sure the resources and the information needed for that particular community can get what they need and from where they need it from in terms of connecting people. Now, we don't compete with a lot of companies in terms of it from an insurance standpoint or anything along those lines. We basically want to help you. This is the United States government being good stewards of your dollars, making sure we level the playing field. There's 106 export credit agencies across the world. We're the representative of the United States government. We're on your side, making sure you're getting your seat at the table. Next slide. As I said, we level the playing field, minimize risk. You want to say, how do we minimize risk? It's a simple 4-letter word which stops a number of people from exporting. It's fear, the ability they're not going to get paid. And that's money is a key part of it. Now, also having the resources to make sure you're able to export, making sure you have that extra, $50,000 or $60,000 you need to produce that product to get it to that next level of sales. So it's an important part of that. Next slide. What we do. I'll be quite simple in explaining. Export credit insurance on the left-hand side of the screen. Risk to buyer. Export credit insurance protects you against foreign receivables. It covers you up to 95% of you getting paid. So for instance, if you have car insurance, let's just take it back a step. Everybody has car insurance, everybody has homeowners insurance. That's for the opportunity when something does happen, we're covered. We feel comfortable, make sure we don't have the fear. Export credit insurance does that for you when you're exporting your goods or services overseas, making sure you're going to get paid. Now, being able to do that will give you the information you need and also the peace of mind you need to make sure you're able to export. Now, what EXIM does is provide coverage in those areas and different types of coverage, and we'll cover you up to 95%. So that's basically saying if you make an $1,000 sale overseas, we will cover up to 95% of that sale. So that's basically $950 we will cover. So it's to give you an opportunity knowing you're not going to lose your shirt being basically doing your overseas transactions because we're here to cover. Now, what we do is also give you a couple of different options with export credit insurance. Of course, you can sell on open terms. What that basically means for your overseas clients, you can sell on credit terms. 60 days, 120 days. It gives them the ability to actually buy more from you based on the fact that they can afford it because the fact they're having that to pay cash up front. Now, being able to do that is a huge business deal. If you're sitting down with somebody overseas at a business deal and they say, hey, I can give you 60 days to pay the bill for your particular export. That's a huge benefit right there. Not knowing that you don't have to come up with that particular amount right up front. So it's actually a great idea to have that. It will allow you to expand your global markets by being able to offer credit. So it's a great opportunity there as well. The other product which we offer is working capital guarantees. It helps you secure a loan with your commercial lender. A lot of times banks won't basically just lend you money without any security. We act as a guarantor. We don't actually lend them money, but we actually provide a background guarantee to that bank, which will help you get that particular loan, will help you support against your export receivables, and gives you that line of credit you need to actually make the product continue producing it at a higher level. And next slide. And as I talked about earlier, I'm with Women in Minority Owned Business Division, better known as MWB. Now, we have a specialized group of individuals who will help you get to that next level of exporting. And what that means is basically knowing the resources that are available, whether it be in the state of Maryland, as we talking with today, or in another state. We would make sure you get to that right person for the level of export readiness you have to be. If you need an export business plan, working with our SBDCs across the United States, it's a great opportunity. They'll get you in contact with maybe some of the state level players we have available as well. Being that you have to actually utilize all your resources to be successful. Now, a number of people on this call are probably either new or just thinking about exporting. Listen to some of the things we're saying today. We give you an opportunity to know where your starting point is. Who do you call first to make sure you get what you need to be successful in terms of an export perspective? Now, in terms of underserved communities, we work with the minority industries, as well as a number of different industries, as we work with veterans as well as people with disabilities. The goal here is to make sure we give you that resource and point you in the right direction. Next slide. And give you a kind of idea of how the importance, and from a minority standpoint, of how serious we take our commitment to the minority and women-owned community. As you can see, $361 million of support went to those particular companies. We did 107 outreach and engaging events. Of course, they were all webinars for the last 2 years with our COVID protocols in place. But today, I speak to you today from our actual physical headquarters in Washington, D.C. We started back to work this past Monday. So it's been a little challenging and getting used to everything. Again, knowing the traffic patterns. But as you can see, we help from a business outreach point a number of targeted audiences: Native Americans, the rural business, LGBTQIA community, and underserved business community, which includes the rural community, products and agriculture, which we can actually assist you as well. As you can see, $327 billion directly affects minority-owned businesses. So is this commitment there. That's not something we're just saying, that's something we live by. Next slide. Now, I wanted to be as brief as possible because I wanted to make sure we had enough time for some really good questions. Some questions to generate some conversations and some connections between the people on the phone. Karen, I do believe I sent you the video. I'd like to share a video we have from our Women's Business Month of one of our clients. You might recognize the product. It is sold on the shelf here in Maryland, but she also exports it. So I'd like to introduce one of the EXIM clients right now. I don't think it was shared with sound. We might have to start again.
I was a high school teacher in Plano, Texas, and I taught business courses. And my school said that they would pay for my master's degree if I wanted to go get it. So I loved the teaching job, but I wanted to find a way to make some more money for my family because, as we all know, 50 grand a year doesn't go very far. So I was raising 2 boys, about to get a divorce from my husband of 20-some years, and I was terrified. So you know, as women do, we roll up our sleeves and figure it out. And you know, I think I was scared, but I went and got my master's degree. And as I was sitting there grading papers, I realized, you know, it'd be pretty cool to make something that survives in good times and bad, you know, recession proof. So anyway, kicked off the BuzzBalls idea in 2009. And I got my first sale in 2010. So here we are, 12 years later. I was actually seen, our product, BuzzBalls, was seen in California. And the guy that saw it was flying on the airline. And he said, hey, I'm flying over to China and I sell Mike's Hard Lemonade. And I was wondering if you would let me export your product to China. So then I ended up working with the actual buyer on the China side. And I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I had lived overseas. I had lived in Johannesburg, South Africa for 3 years and Stockholm, Sweden for 5 years. So I knew what it was to be international and all of that, but not China. I've never been to China before. So worked with China, figured out how to make the product and get in with the retailers there by going to some trade shows. And using EXIM was one of the ways that I ended up giving credit to some of the buyers there. What it was the customer over in China was asking for credit terms. And so I called my bank and I asked, how do I get credit terms for this person? And then I learned about export insurance from somebody, I don't know, Department of Agriculture or somebody on the federal government side. And they said, well, we do have an export insurance. And I was like, well, great, let's use it. And it was super easy and just learned how to do it. But it saved my butt. Oh, and it's well worth it, you know, and it gives you the peace of mind that if you want to give somebody 60 days credit terms, 90-day credit terms, you can do that and still have the safety net that you will get paid, you know, and it's not just forever floating money. I am growing like a weed is what I'm doing. I am balls to the wall, as they say, you know, I'm working hard. I am growing at 68% year over year, even over the stunning year we had last year. So I'm just taking care of my employees. I'm prepping for more growth. It takes me like 2 years to get a facility and get the machinery and get everything in line. So I'm thinking about 2024 right now. How do I prepare for that? How big are we going to be? And, you know, just figuring out how to make all that managed now so that we ease right into it in 2024. But growth is great. I'm just giving I'm hiring more people, just growing into a more multinational company. We've got people in London this week. I'll be in Dubai in a couple of weeks. You know, I'll be in Mexico. You know, we're all over the place and really growing our international. So I think you'll see more of us on the EXIM side as well. One thing I would give advice to women about in general, not just women, but all people, you know, Americans need more product internationally. And you can use EXIM to help with that. And I think that it's just a lot of women and small business people don't know how to navigate those waters. And there's a huge need for it. You know, when you go overseas, they love American goods. So, you know, made in the USA. Here we come, baby.
You know, I couldn't have said it better. We can talk about export credit insurance and what we're able to do, but hearing it from somebody who's actually using it, and it made her business is a story within itself. And update, no, she didn't get divorced. Not saying export credit insurance or EXIM can help save a marriage, but Karen, I did actually had the opportunity to do that interview, and when I spoke with Marilee, and she said it changed her life. In terms of being able to export, and it gave her an opportunity from a growth, but she also grew as a person because of the risk she was taking. She felt more confident, and everything worked out for the best. And it's a great opportunity. And I know some of you guys who might have seen that actually on the shelf in Maryland. So.
Well, and if we haven't seen it, we're going to find it now, because that is, I mean, it's such a great promo for all of us, for women, but for everyone, small business community, that there are resources, there are connectors out there. And we just want to thank all of you. And I mean, Aerek, this is so great because, you know, the bottom line is we've got to have the resources, we've got to have the funding, but we've got to have the protection so that we don't lose our shirt. So I just thank you for this opportunity to share this and your client. And then with that being said, I want to invite Robin. She's a client of Brian, the STEP program, and what she's been able to do and the opportunities that she's had. Robin, would you like to have a minute and share some of your experiences and how you started and the steps along the way and where you're at and where you're going?
I sure would. If you give me just a second, I'm just looking for my PowerPoint to share with everybody.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I don't know. I had it up for a second, and of course, you know how all
I know
best
that's
things,
all.
Yeah.
It's fine.
all best things disappear on you when you need them, right? Give me 1 second, and I will come back on. I gotta tell you, as I'm doing this, I've been playing this game a long time, and how excited I've learned a lot from Aerek. That was something quite new to me, and thank you so much, Aerek, because I wish I'd known you back in the day, because that would have been a phenomenal piece for us as we went international.
It's not too late, Robin.
Never know. I'm just trying to get it into mode. So I'm just going to have to leave it in this mode. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Mhm.
Excellent. So I just want to go ahead and introduce you. I'm Robin Wiener from Get Real Health. I've had great experiences working with almost everybody on this panel. It's been phenomenal. I very excited to tell you our story a little bit, but just a little bit of Get Real Health. We're located in Maryland, actually in Rockville, Maryland, right on Montgomery County. And we've been around for about 20, oh gosh, I think it'll be 22 years this year. Or 21 or 22 years. So we've been around for a long time, but we started just in a small room and have grown all the way to this international presence that we have. And what we are just a quick piece is we are what's called a patient portal or / really what we are is a digital front door. So we work in healthcare. And we really are that digital front door for the patients to be able to see all their information anywhere here in the US and around the world. So international has been a very big part of what we do. So I just wanted to kind of get you a feel of our international install base. So of course here in North America, but we've got about 3 million patients using our digital front door, both in the commercial side and also the government side, the DOHs. So that is why it's been such an incredible feeling to be able to be part of what we do with our friends across Maryland and the US government. So just to kind of say how we got started. So we are one of the first companies to do the Montgomery County Integrator program. So we really started literally around in a small room with myself and my two partners, Mark Keeney and Jason Harmon. So we started really small. And one of the biggest first things we did is actually get a loan from a local bank, and which was supported by the SBA. And so that's something right there. So coming out the gate, I knew about Small Business Administration and SCORE, which is the senior side of that. And they really supported. So I highly recommend you look at your county and then look at the SBA and see what areas can actually help. And within that incubator program, we got introductions to the Robert Smith School of Business, which gave us support business side and legal side in that incubator program. And then of course, the Maryland Department of Commerce and the United States Department of Commerce. So working with those both have been just phenomenal groups. So we are starting something very small, which is 3 of us. And now we've got here in Maryland over 55 employees and overseas about 65. But 2.5 years ago, I did sell the company. So now we're part of a 2,000 person company. So we're able to grow it, do it, and take a really great exit. But I love it so much, I'm still here. So let me tell you a little bit about what we've done with the state of Maryland and all the different conferences we've gone and what they've done to support us and just some phenomenal pieces. So as Brian was talking about all these different programs they had, I cannot tell you how supporter of the state of Maryland and Maryland Department of Commerce has been. It's just been incredible. Brian Castleberry, there's just nobody better in the world out there than Brian. He is constantly, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? But that is the attitude of Maryland business. You know, they are there to support you in every area. So one of the first conferences I went to was Medica. That's in Germany, and we went to the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Maryland. This was a few years ago. And it was just, you go in and you're part of the booth. You've got the credibility of being with Maryland. People look at you as something Maryland is somewhat endorsing. So you really get that feeling of, wow, we're part of something. People are going to believe in what I'm trying to sell and what I'm trying to talk about. And I think that's an important piece, is when you have the backings of your state or or the US government, you feel like you've got something that's got your back. And people look at you a little differently because they know that you wouldn't be in that situation unless you were supported by those two groups. So the first one we went was in Germany, and that was a great experience. Met with a bunch of U.S. Commerce representatives there. Really got to know the feel for Germany. At that time, what we were told is maybe it's not the right time to go into Germany. Maybe that's not the right place to be. So that kind of helped me make a decision of where I wanted to go into the market. Now that has changed a bit. One of the biggest conferences, and honestly, the last time I traveled, which was almost 3 years ago, or a little over 2.5 years ago, was Arab Health in Dubai. And that we traveled with the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. And what an experience that was. Not only were we able to be in the booth at Arab Health, we got to have this fantastic dinner with the Lieutenant Governor, got to meet other Maryland companies there, but also Maryland has a program where they will do B2B matching. And so we were able to meet, they set up conversations with multiple different companies for us to meet while we were in Dubai. So it was not just being at the conference, but it was also being able to have these side conversations. And then we layered on top of it some of the US Commerce connections that we have there. So you've got multi-layers of meetings you're having. And what's really exciting is we walked away with a very large deal in Abu Dhabi. So which we just went live in just last year. So not only was I got to meet all these different people, I got to understand what's happening in the Middle East with the support of the state of Maryland and the governor. We also were able to actually get a deal done. So I think that is really, really important to understand. When you go to these conferences, you're getting more than just sitting in your booth. You can actually get out there and get to know. Now, we absolutely used a grant to get there. It was really supportive, but I think it's more in the financial side is really, really helpful. But it's, again, having that endorsement and that push with the state of Maryland. And Maryland is well known out there. We've also had a meeting this last year as everything was kind of closed down. We started to open the doors a little bit, and Maryland brought in the UAE Minister of Economics and their whole delegation. And we were able to sit around a table with the top Minister of Economics, their economy there, that for of UAE. Learned about the different programs they have, the different relationships they have with Maryland. This is endorsed by our governor. So they really had some fantastic marketing and relationship building. And that was done overlooking at the international, the trades building, overlooking the beautiful inner harbor. So it was definitely something that I felt very honored to be in the room with. But also, as we're doing business in the UAE, we made some contacts there that can support and help us as we move forward. Another thing that that Brian and the team were able to really help me with was we won a leadership award with our governor for the international leadership, which was a huge honor for me and our team here. But it also gives us just a great people learned more about us. We were in a group of phenomenal companies, and it was shown that we are not only are we a Maryland company or US company, that we did a lot of exporting, that we did a lot of work overseas. And it was great, again, to have the backing of our governor and getting up there and getting this award and being able to do it. And this past year, they actually brought us into the Maryland Business Adapts, and we won with the Robert H. Smith School at the University of Maryland, and brought us in there talking about how we had to shift very quickly during COVID. But I think the theme here is that they've got your back. They're going to help you. They're going to support you. You just have to pick up the phone and call them, and they will be there for you as you grow the business. And it really meant a huge difference of where we were and where we are now. As you know, we say we are an international company that's been able to do a ton. So that's the state of Maryland. That is it. And by the way, even came up when we opened our new offices, Secretary of Commerce and a bunch of other people came up and did a big program here to welcome our Swedish. We have a group in from Sweden, and also to welcome into our new offices. So you know what, they're there to help you kind of give that, again, credibility that you need with clients coming in. Now let's talk about the US Department of Commerce. And absolutely, Michael brought everything you learned about what Michael said, we've been using and we've been doing, and it's been phenomenal. Again, working so close with Brian, Michael, somebody named this guy Carrie, and then even downtown with our connections in the DC office. We've been able to do some trade winds events to Mexico and Chile. That was, again, financially supported by a grant through the US Department of Commerce. We also went to the HIMSS, which we're in healthcare, and HIMSS is one of our largest conferences. We did the one in Europe, and we are part of the US Commerce per se booth area, and that was in Finland a few years ago. And not only did we have the event where we're part of the booth, we were also invited to the ambassador's home for an event where we were able to actually interact with other countries and other vendors. So it was one of those, it was a very special event, and people were very thrilled to be able to go. But this is the kind of thing that you see at the embassies, and they're able to do things at the embassy. So we've been lucky enough to do embassy events in UAE, Japan, Sweden, and the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, I actually spoke in the Netherlands at the US embassy on US trade and basically as an exporter of health IT around the world. So we've been able to do that. I've also been able to do events here in the US, and I spoke in the Swedish embassy downtown one time, and also been to the Sweden's the ambassador's home and the United Kingdom's. So again, really building that layer of relationships all the way through. And you know, we are deployed in the UK. We were deployed in Sweden, and we actually ran into a problem, and that is where the embassy jumped in and helped us get that deal done. There was a political thing that was happening, and as Michael said, sometimes they will step in and help you through those. They absolutely did. So again, having them as my partner in Sweden, being able to make that phone call and being able to have them come in and jump in, which is great. We're right now working as a digital pitch book for Hong Kong for US medtech companies. That one is just going to play, and we've been able to work with them. They've also have done things as Gold Key, and one time in France, one of their trade ambassadors went and laid, we couldn't go to a conference, they went and laid all our paperwork out for us at conference. So we're talking about, these guys are really right there for us. And then other things have just gotten me out there and really exposed Get Real Health out in a global world. And one of them was speaking at the White House on insights on international export opportunities for health IT. And I was able to get there to roundtable, talk about patient engagement and being able to be out in front. So I think, you know, what I wanted to kind of say through all of this is do something that, you know, we kind of somebody told me about it. I picked up the phone, and guess what? All this started to happen, and it's been a phenomenal run. And we've been able to have that support and be able to do all this. And I really feel that we wouldn't be where we are without them. So I just think that's kind of my story and what we do.
Robin, that is great. And we thank you. And what an accomplishment. You know, we really do applaud, you know, your energy in moving forward, because this is something that we all have to work very hard to want to achieve. And when we've got that passion, when we're an entrepreneur, and when we get the right connections with the right people, we can keep going down that path. And I just can't say enough. Thank you. And just keep sharing that energy, because you know, we need it. We need to share it with other entrepreneurs. I think the thing that came up today is that it's about the fear factor. It's like, I can't do this. How can I do it? But there are resources. You guys are out there, and I can't thank you enough to making yourself available. And is there any last minute kind of thoughts, Michael? We've got at this point, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat box, but I'm sure that this is going to spark a lot of conversations. And I know that, and I've put the invitation out to all of our attendees, that at any point, as well as we're going to put this on demand, if there is any questions as to where to go, you folks, you know, you're the point people. So do you have any last minute kind of leaving thoughts that you'd like to share with the entrepreneur community?
One thing I'll say first is, Robin, fantastic presentation.
Yeah, Robin.
Checks in the mail. You definitely embody all that we've discussed during this presentation. So that was awesome. That was
great
awesome.
to hear, Robin. Makes our job worthwhile hearing your story. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, and I would just say to everybody, don't be scared to jump into this, because you've got these people. I mean, I'm just looking at Michael and Aerek and Brian, and I mean, they are passionate about what they do. They don't do it just because it's a job. They're all working for the government. They know they don't do it just for the job. They do because they care about this, and that is what has driven us, and that is why I'm here. Is, you know, Brian gave me a call, and I absolutely would do anything for him. And this is kind of what I say: just step in, give it a try. If you don't try, you won't achieve. So give it a try and jump in, and sometimes amazing stuff happens.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know, Karen, if I could add one thing, for those on the call today who haven't exported or just exploring it, today is your first step in having that conversation with myself, Brian, you know, even Robin. She showed you how to get to that next level and what commitment it takes. But please, if I can explore anybody, take advantage of the resources that are available in your local area. SBDCs, your Maryland Department of Commerce, Brian in his office, and Jessica, all those, they're partners with us in what we call the Regional Export Promotion Program, better known as REP. And it gives us an opportunity to make sure we connect people with the right people to get them to that next level, that business plan, making sure you have your financials in order. These are the type of conversations building up to that, being able to export. So just communication and collaboration.
It is. That's the key. And that's what we're all here for, is to be those connectors. And none of us have all the answers, but we certainly do have the connections to make those referrals and say, call here and email here, and they'll start you in that process. So I can't say enough thank yous for everyone. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing from our small business community after the fact, and probably for a while, because this will be online, and I can't say enough thank yous.
Fantastic. Have a good night. Good
Thank you. You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.